Merci. Thank you, colleagues. I feel like asking you to stand longer, but no, thank you, colleagues. Good morning. And I'd like to welcome the Canadians who are joining us in our caucus meeting today. The last time the Conservative caucus welcomed Canadians into our meeting was last June. At that caucus meeting, I spoke about the need for an economic recovery for Canadian families after the pandemic in all sectors of our economy and in all regions of the country. J'ai parlé des effets néfastes de l'inflation sur notre pays, de la hausse des prix alors que les salaires n'augmentent pas. J'ai aussi parlé de la réconciliation avec les peuples autochtones, mais surtout que les gestes symboliques ne doivent jamais remplacer les mesures concrètes. I also warned in that speech about an emerging coalition of the Liberals, the NDP, and the other parties on the left, giving Canadians a false sense of political choice here in Ottawa. Last June, I said that Canadians had only two choices in front of them: Canada's Conservatives or a Liberal NDP Green coalition. Well, friends, that was just a few months before Justin Trudeau plunged our country into a pandemic election that nobody asked for. And now, a few months after that $600 million election, a Liberal NDP coalition is exactly what Canadians are getting. Only this time, Mr. Trudeau and Mr. Singh aren't even hiding it. For weeks, they've been openly talking about making a deal. And you know that a Liberal NDP coalition would be a disaster for the Canadian economy. A Liberal NDP coalition would be a disaster for transparency and accountability after years of cover-ups under the Trudeau government. The coalition of the left will only further erode our national unity. Canada's Conservatives will not stay silent when our country's prosperity and our country's national unity are at risk. Conservatives will work hard to ensure the voices of all Canadians are heard here in Ottawa. The voices of energy workers and auto workers, the voices of small business owners and of farmers, and most importantly, the voices of families raising young children and seniors who are worried about the cost of living crisis gripping our country. Families cannot keep up with the rising prices of groceries, gas, and everyday essentials. The Liberal government's spending is fueling the inflation crisis. The Liberal government's ideology is fueling division in this country, and this government's platitudes are a barrier to real action. Canada is the only country in the G7 where inflation is dramatically going up while our economy is actually shrinking. Our inflation rate is the highest in 2 decades and is still rising. Les salaires sont pratiquement pareils, mais les charges sociales vont augmenter l'année prochaine. Pendant la campagne, Justin Trudeau a dit aux Canadiens qu'il ne pense pas à la politique monétaire, mais cette réalité devient de plus en plus évidente. Les dépenses sont hors de contrôle. Les taxes et les impôts sont hors de contrôle. Le commerce avec les États-Unis est une catastrophe. Et Justin Trudeau fait toujours les mêmes promesses. Des promesses qu'il est incapable de tenir. Et c'est comme ça depuis 6 ans. At the kitchen tables in St. John's, in the GTA, or on Vancouver Island, family budgets are being stretched thin. And sadly, more and more Canadian families are relying on food banks. Canadians are being priced out of their apartments, priced out of their neighborhoods, and young people in school or starting their careers are starting to give up on the idea of home ownership. And what is Justin Trudeau's response? Instead of standing up for Canadians, we have a Prime Minister who always puts his own needs ahead of yours. An ideological cabinet that will gladly fly their private jet to Glasgow, but said they might take a train if they ever visit Alberta. An ideological cabinet that is focused on shutting down industries and stopping investment in our country at a time that Canada is drowning in debt and division. A Liberal government that this week was shockingly silent when David Suzuki suggested that pipelines would be blown up if protesters or blockaders didn't get their way. What is happening in this country when the Prime Minister won't condemn language like that? What is happening in this country when we no longer value the hard work done by people to put food on the table for their kids or a roof over their heads? What is happening when the federal government is ignoring the division that their own policies are creating? Instead of uniting, this Liberal government has been dividing. Instead of building up, the Liberal government is intent on closing down. Instead of listening to Indigenous Canadians, Justin Trudeau went surfing. Justin Trudeau continue de diviser le pays. Il est temps d'agir en partenaire avec les provinces, non pas en paternaliste. On va aussi s'assurer que le gouvernement libéral règle le dossier des langues officielles une fois par toutes. C'est ma priorité et celle de mon lieutenant Alain Reyes. Mais les libéraux ne font rien depuis 6 ans. Concernant le Québec, on va s'attaquer au problème de la pénurie de main-d'œuvre, à la crise de l'inflation, mais tout en préservant son identité, sa culture et son autonomie. Je me suis toujours battu pour ces principes et c'est pour ça que je continue de me battre. Canada's Conservatives are the only party standing up for Canadians in Ottawa. Every single day, we will be the true voice of people working hard to build the country back up after the pandemic. A true voice of small business owners, of steel and auto workers, of farmers, of fishermen, of students and seniors, of oil and gas workers in the cleanest, most ethical, most environmentally conscious, and most Indigenous engaged energy sector in the world. Colleagues, what I'm asking of you, what Canadians are asking for, is for Conservatives to be relentless in our efforts to stand up for Canada. Canadians need us to be fearless in our defense of our country and of our liberties. Canadians need a professional, ethical, and experienced Conservative team to hold this tired Liberal government to account and provide Canadians with a clear alternative. Les Canadiens ont besoin que les conservateurs s'opposent à la mauvaise gestion économique des libéraux et ils ont besoin qu'on propose des solutions pour notre avenir économique. Les Canadiens ont besoin qu'on soit des leaders, surtout après 6 ans de déception et inaction. Other countries are launching ambitious plans to unleash innovation, lower taxes, and slash red tape to get their economies surging. And we see nothing from Justin France is lowering taxes and fostering growth in innovation and research. Germany is slashing their value-added tax and building on their advantage in manufacturing. Italy has pledged what it calls the mother of all regulatory reforms to slash red tape to propel their economic recovery. In Canada, Justin Trudeau flew to Tofino and sat on his hands. It took him 2 months to get us back to work in Ottawa after his necessary pandemic election, and it will take him months more before he realizes that our economy is in trouble and that the world is passing Canada by. Canada's Conservatives won't let that happen. On va proposer des plans pour bâtir un Canada prospère et uni. On va régler les vrais problèmes comme la hausse de prix, la toxicomanie et la réconciliation. On va former des partenariats avec les dirigeants syndicaux et des entrepreneurs pour créer des possibilités dans toutes les parties du pays. Les conservateurs vont être la voix des millions de Canadiens qui Justin Trudeau et Jagmeet Singh ont laissé tomber. Et on va s'assurer que tous les Canadiens participent à la construction de notre avenir après la pandémie. Colleagues, like you, I love our country. And I know Canadians joining us in our meeting love Canada as well. I loved serving Canada in uniform. And this morning, I want to thank the amazing men and women who are doing just that for us today, especially hundreds of Canadian Armed Forces members who have been helping with the floods in British Columbia over the last couple of weeks. We thank them and other first responders and civic workers for putting their communities and their country first. And friends, we now know that people in uniform will be doing that today in Newfoundland and Labrador as well. And this is why Canada's Conservatives are here in Ottawa, to serve our communities, to serve our country, to build our economy, to inspire our children, and to unite this country. To be, in the words of Prime Minister Borden, worthy of our role as heirs to the past and trustees to the future. Canada's Conservatives are here to work. We're here to build. We're here to unite, and we're here to secure the future for this great country. So let's get to work. Thank you, colleagues. Thank you. Thank you, colleagues.
More. Thank you, Erin. We have something to present you as a caucus. To our leader, to our captain. Lead on, Erin. Lead on. It says O'Toole, captain. Hey! Well done. It's awesome.
Let's get on the ice, colleagues. Let's go.
And now I will invite our good friends from the media to wrap up and head out. Thank you very much for being here.